But what I wanted to do today was clarify, there's at least 7 ways that your body can lose weight that actually has nothing to do with fat loss. And so you'll see a lot of marketing and things out there for supplements or for diets or programs or whatever that focus around this concept called weight loss. And it's really, if you notice, using the word weight, they're not saying fat loss. Some things will say like fat burner or whatever, right? But when you're talking about weight loss, it's actually really easy to manipulate losing weight on the scale that has nothing to do with actual reduction in body fat. And so it's easy to market products or programs or services based off that concept because they're easily manipulable versus actual healthy body composition change. Okay? So what I want to do is just kind of go through each of these points, and like I said, if you have questions, just interject and we'll talk about it. But these 7 main ways, first one, the easiest one, you guys probably know, is water intake. So typically, when somebody starts a program, they understand water is essential and that they tend to increase their water intake. When you do that, your body's constantly trying to balance out its hydration levels. So the amount of sodium that is in your cells in your body versus the amount of water that's in your body. And to give you an idea of what this looks like, so like this is a cell, okay? And when you have electrolytes, right, water is going to follow electrolytes. So if you've been eating unhealthy and you've been having higher sodium foods or more processed foods, you're gonna have higher rates of sodium in your body. So you're gonna have sodium or electrolytes in these cells. And the more sodium that you have, or other electrolytes in your body, water follows electrolytes. So it's going to cause water to enter into your cells, okay? Now, if you don't drink a lot of water and you have a high amount of sodium, you're gonna have more water retention because all of this sodium in your cell is going to dehydrate the cell. So your body's gonna pull in more water, causing bloating, right? So you'll tend to find that when you start drinking more water and eating cleaner, you're gonna see rapid weight loss really fast. And that's because all the sodium is being depleted because you're flushing in a ton of water and you're decreasing your sodium levels. So now your cell is drowning and all the water is coming out, and then you lose a lot of weight through peeing out water. So that's one of the first things people see is like, yay, I'm down 3 pounds in a day. You didn't burn 3 pounds of fat in a day, you lost water weight, okay? So that's one of the first things that people, or some people will manipulate, or supplements can do is cause you to flush out water, or if you're just intaking more water and lowering your sodium intake through eating cleaner and not as processed foods, you're going to see weight loss. It's just going to be water loss, though. It has nothing to do with body fat. So that's the first misconception around weight loss. Is that. Next, does anyone have questions about water?
But I'm assuming that's not bad.
No, it's not bad. It just is what it is, right? Like, because we'll get a lot of people that they're excited when they begin a program, right? And then they're down like 10 or 12 pounds their first month or something. And like 25% to a third of that's probably just water loss. And then when they start to see less of a rapid rate of weight loss in the future, they get discouraged. And it's like, no. You didn't lose that full amount in your first few weeks or months or days as body fat. That's a long process. What you probably did is you balanced out your hydration and your body just flushed, essentially. So yeah, it's not a bad thing. It's actually a good thing. Your body's just getting back into proper hydration balance and hydrating your cells, and that's one of the reasons why when you drink more water, you just feel more mentally clear, you perform better, you have better circulation, better water balance. So the next thing would be low carb intake, or depleting your carbohydrates, or what's called glycogen loss. So typically, we tend to eat a higher carbohydrate diet. One, that food weighs something, okay? And with every gram of carb that you consume, it actually stores a third of a fluid ounce of water with every gram of carb. So if you have a few hundred grams of carbs per day, you're talking about a large amount of weight from water also being stored, plus the weight of that food. And that's just stored in your muscle. It's not stored as body fat or anything. The water might be stored in some of your fat cells, but it's mostly just stored in the muscle mass or in your liver or in your bloodstream. Now, that's when you're in a high carbohydrate state. A lot of people, when they focus on fat loss or weight loss, they know that they probably want to try to reduce their carbohydrates, and some people respond really well to that. So when you go on a low carb diet, or you just reduce the processed foods that have carbs in them, or just the overall carbs that you're eating, you're going to, one, lose weight because you're going to deplete and burn out those carbohydrates from the resistance training that you're doing. And two, you're going to start to lose more water weight because you're taking in fewer carbs. So again, you can lose weight, but it's food weight and water weight initially if you're starting a low carb diet. And what glycogen is basically just the scientific term for carbs that are stored in your muscle as fuel ready to go, but they're not stored as body fat. So when you take in carbs, it goes into your stomach, it absorbs, your liver kind of filters it and tells it what to do, and your liver will turn that into glucose or blood sugar, and then that'll go get stored in your muscle or in your bloodstream or in your liver for like backup energy, okay? So
Is that what you burn when you work out?
that's what you primarily use for energy when you're doing resistance training. But that doesn't mean that you're not going to burn fat. It's actually you're leveraging that fuel source to burn more calories and increase your lean muscle mass, which raises your metabolism and now you have a faster metabolism that can go burn more fat later on, essentially. So yes, you are burning more sugar or carbs during a weight training workout, but it's actually setting you up for better fat burning later. Okay?
So it's better to eat carbs before you work.
Yeah, if you're doing resistance training, it is a good, that's why Corey was telling you earlier about like having some coconut water or maybe, I'm not sure if he said fruit or something like that, but some type of carbohydrate will actually increase performance because you're gonna use that for your resistance training workout. And then as long as you're eating healthy sources, you're not overindulging on carbohydrates, you don't have to worry about like, hindering your fat loss.
So I hope spaghetti it won't be a problem.
yeah.
French spaghetti.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so anything around carbohydrate intake or?
Yeah, I like bread.
Yeah.
With butter.
Any questions about it? Okay, cool. So the next one is what's called gastrointestinal emptying. And this is just basically meaning you're cleaning out your bowels, you're cleaning out your digestive system. And this is typically because, again, when you start a healthy program, you're probably going to eat more fruits and vegetables or whole grains, so your fiber is going to go up. And fiber is just something that helps regulate and clean out your digestive system and helps with the absorption of nutrients and things like that. So you're probably going to go to the bathroom more and have more frequent bowel movements. And because you're intaking more fiber, you're going to clean out some of the buildup if you've had any digestive issues or just waste stuck up there that that hasn't been getting pushed out, okay? So it's not uncommon when you start a program to go from like, yeah, I have a bowel movement once a day or once every other day to having 2 or 3 bowel movements a day. So, and that's usually just because you've made changes in your diet. Again, you're losing weight has nothing to do with body fat, right? It's just your body getting back into proper balance. Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much it on that one. So most of that you're going to see from like fruits and vegetables and whole grains. Questions there? Okay, cool. The next one would be taking diuretics or diuretic foods, diuretic drinks, or diuretic supplements. Diuretics, this kind of relates to number one. What they basically do is they cause you to flush. So they actually dehydrate you. They cause vasoconstriction, which just means your blood vessels constrict and kind of squeezes you like a sponge. Okay, it just squeezes everything out of you. So this would be things like coffee, right, or certain teas, caffeine. Some food sources would be like lemon, cranberry, dandelion root. So there's a few other like plant extracts, and you'll find these in some supplements and stuff. And this is what water pills are.
Yerba mate also.
What's that?
Yerba mate.
Yerba mate, yeah, yerba mate. So again, not necessarily bad. It just is causing a little bit of dehydration. There's actually some good qualities to diuretics if you're trying to get your water back in balance, or you have like, people with bigger body types sometimes get pitted edema, so they don't have good circulation. So that'll help kind of flush out excess water buildup, kind of in relation to the sodium and water intake stuff we were talking about earlier. But the thing is, you are kind of dehydrating your body, and you're flushing, and thus you're losing weight. You're losing weight from water. And so this is one thing that's huge that people don't realize is some supplement companies will give you weight loss pills, and they'll sell them at really high premium, so you spend a lot of money on a product that costs almost nothing to make. and they're just loaded with diuretics that cause you to flush, and they can claim it is a weight loss pill legally because it causes you to lose weight. It's just not claiming that you're going to lose fat weight. So just beware of some claims on supplements about weight loss. There's great supplements out there.
Sorry.
You're okay.
Blooper reel.
Oh, sorry.
You're fine.
Sergio's down.
All right.
Taylor, would you recommend us popping a few diuretics before the end of our 6-week challenge for after photos?
No. You want to know why?
Just checking.
Because your body fat percentage will go up if
Oh,
you do that.
man.
Because water is considered lean mass. So,
I was just thinking for the pictures, just lean everything out.
yeah, don't try to cheat to like win something. But if you want to, like, I will admit, like, so when we do photo shoots, I sometimes will use water pills.
Yeah.
Because I do like want to see like what does my physique look like in that state. It's not healthy.
Yeah.
Like
I've
it's
used
totally
it and
temporary.
it actually makes me look horrible. Like
I wasn't
terrible.
really-
And it
I
makes
hate
her
it.
feel horrible too.
I
'cause you're,
feel like
super
crap
dehydrated.
and I look just like no muscle, like flat and just like
You
Well, and
didn't,
then
you
don't
didn't do
you
your
have to
carb
turn
loading
around
properly.
and-
I don't like it.
Don't you just have to turn around and drink all the water again
Yeah,
to
like,
rehydrate yourself? So
and
it's
that's the
not like
thing.
it's a long
It's
lasting-
totally temporary, right? You're gonna take some diuretics, or you're gonna whatever, like, and then yeah, you'll lose a pound, maybe 1 to 5 pounds from water loss. But then you're just gonna end up rehydrating, and your body's gonna respond by rehydrating your body and holding onto that and filling those cells up with water again, right? So. Yeah, so it's just a temporary fix. But if you've got an issue with bloating, or if you've got an issue with edema or something like that, then water pills or blood pressure, it's something that is prescribed for blood pressure. So if you have high blood pressure, hypertension, that's something that doctors will possibly prescribe. So
Or like after a long
You
flight.
could just take potassium.
yeah, like with inflammation and
Yeah.
yep. What's
What
that?
about just taking potassium and cranberry extract?
Yeah.
Just naturally.
Well, that's a natural diuretic. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there are, like I said, there are some benefits like lemon. There's tons of benefits with lemon and cranberry and dandelion root, but they will have those effects on your body. So just know that if you have diuretics in your typical daily routine, you're seeing weight loss. Just know that's probably there's a correlation there. Some of your weight loss is probably related to that. So then the next one, reducing inflammation. So when you consume high pro-inflammatory fats, which are like processed fats or trans fats, they cause inflammation in the body, which is like a stress and swelling type of response, and an increase in what we call oxidative stress, just a buildup of certain things in your body that are causing additional stress and inflammation in your body. But that can happen from when you're eating poorly, when you're eating pro-inflammatory foods, when you're eating a lot of processed foods or trans fat-filled foods, or foods that like fast food type stuff, right? Things that basically don't look like they look in nature, right? Yeah. So when you're in that inflammation state, that's typically as a result of consuming those things, and then when you go into, again, starting a fitness program or a healthy diet, you're going to start decreasing inflammation when you increase your vitamin and mineral intake, when you increase fiber, when you increase healthy fatty acids, when you decrease trans fats, when you decrease processed foods, when you decrease even carbohydrates, inflammation goes down and swelling goes down. And so that it has a similar effect, because with inflammation, often there is bloating or water retention related to it. Do you have a question?
No.
No? Okay. So, yeah. So when you start into a program, you might initially experience some increase in inflammation. So I've actually had clients that start, and a lot of you probably know, I've told you, I said, don't focus on the scale for like the next month. Because it's possible you could go down, but it's possible you might go up. Or it's possible you might do this, right? Because your body's going through some stress, because we're adding in weight training. We're adding in totally new diet changes. We're adding in water. We're balancing out your electrolytes. All these factors are getting tweaked, and so people sometimes, when they haven't worked out before, or they haven't worked out in a long time, and they do resistance training, you're going to be inflamed. You're going to get, it's a large physical stress on the body. You're going to have water retention and bloating and inflammation and soreness for the first few weeks at least. And so sometimes you can go up in weight when you start a program, but it has nothing to do with body fat. It's just your body responding to the stress of the exercise. And so that's why, one reason we don't want people to focus so much on the scale, especially in those first few weeks. Even though we take your weight and we do want to track what is it trending, right? You should be trending downward if you have extra weight to lose. Some people might trend up, right? Like if you already are, like if there's a thinner body type and they might have some body fat that they want to lose, but they might actually trend up because they just don't have a lot of body fat, and then they start building some muscle mass, and even though they're getting smaller and tighter, their weight might be increasing because their muscle density is going up, right? So that's why we just don't want you to focus so much on the scale, even though we track it for trends. Questions about inflammation? Okay, cool. So flipping over, dude, this is like the biggest one. Stress. Who here is stressed? 1, 2, 3, somewhat, right? I have stress for sure sometimes. So there's two types of stress. There's acute stress and chronic stress. And obviously it can be like physical or mental and emotional, whatever. So we do want to put your body under some stress, which is exercise and the stress of a caloric deficit and things like that, right? To get your body to respond in the way that we want. Because without that stress, you're not going to start to see changes in your body. But we want that to be small, gradual, healthy, calculated amounts of stress. When you have chronic stress, this is something that is ongoing, it's long-term, and it's to excess. So it can be mental and it can be physical. So if you're chronically underslept, so if you're getting probably 6 or fewer hours of sleep at night, or you're getting 8 hours of sleep but it's restless and you're waking up all the time and you don't get a lot of deep sleep, or if you overwork and if your work itself stresses you out, or you're under a lot of psychological stress, or what else? If you take in excessive amounts of caffeine, even taking in, Corey's over there like, even your diet can cause chronic stress in your body due to things like inflammation. And so if your body's constantly in this chronic stress state, it's releasing two things. Usually in the short term, something called catecholamines, which is just it's a chemical that's produced to deal with stress. And then in a long-term scale, cortisol. Who's heard of cortisol? Okay, a couple. So it's basically a stress hormone that it alters things in your body to deal with the stress. One of those alterations is it thinks, your body doesn't know that we live in this modern civilized society where we have all the resources we need and we're not going to die tomorrow. Your body still thinks we're going to die tomorrow if we don't get food or if we don't, think in the short term. So what happens is it trips a signal in your body that says store fat. I'm under stress, it means I'm at risk of dying, store fat. So I'm under chronic stress at work, store fat. Or my family's stressing me out, store fat. Or I'm underslept because I only sleep 4 hours a night, store fat. So you get this constant hormone signal telling you you're in this emergency state and that you're going to store fat, even though you're trying to eat properly and you're exercising. And sometimes if you're overstressed and exercising, you're adding more stress to it. And even though exercise itself is healthy, you're adding to the stress levels, and that's what can cause people to gain weight. So, what's up?
When you fell from an airplane, you hit the ground, you fat?
What?
Because you stress all the way down, you're storing it.
Yes, exactly. It immediately
Make it
happens.
fat.
Yes. And see, if you stress enough as you're going down, you'll actually get so fat that you stop the impact on the way down, so you survive. So, yeah.
And bounce.
And bounce, yes, exactly. But yeah, so you can see how if one of these things is off, right, or you're not accounting for one of these factors, how with stress especially, you can be dieting great and you can be exercising and not overtraining, but if you're chronically underslept and you have a very stressful life, your body sometimes will refuse to lose weight. And the thing is, we want to work with your body, not against it. Don't fight your body, it will win. It will always win. It's very adaptive. So you want to learn these things about your body and work with it. But I'll tell you, one of the biggest things that I've seen over the years with clients is they can do all these great things diet-wise and exercise-wise, and they neglect sleep, they neglect recovery, they neglect de-stressing and meditation or whatever helps you relieve your stress levels, and they're overworked and underslept, and that's what's causing them to hold on to more weight.
The whole thing we experience on this journey is, if you're stressed, you feel fat no matter what. Mm-hmm. You feel losing weight, and you're gonna eat something, and you stress for that little piece that you're eating. Even if it's your cheat day,
yeah,
and you stress yourself, and you feel fat and you'll gain weight because of stress. I've been telling Monica, being stressed, I'm done. I hit the scale in the house. I was like, I'm done. I want to put up the work. We're gonna control, but we're not gonna stress about the weight anymore. If it happens, it will happen because we put the work.
Yeah.
But no stress.
Yeah, because like you're tying an emotionally significant experience to an arbitrary number on a piece of metal or glass on the floor, right? Like,
Now I'm more
and then
stressed because I can't find the scale.
she's so stressed because she can't find it. But yeah, like that's really it. Like people are so focused on that number when there's these 7 factors, and we'll get to the 7th one in a sec, but that affect your weight that have nothing to do with your fat, right? So like, just let it go, you know? But I'll tell you, like, really look at your life and where are you stressed? Just sit down with a piece of paper and say, okay, what causes me stress? Work, or this, or not getting sleep, or, you know, too much, like, text messages coming in, or whatever. And start to look at how you can control or at least mitigate stress buildup through adding in things like taking a relaxing bath, aromatherapy, massage, meditation, going for a hike, spending time in nature, deep breathing. Like, there's a lot of measurable ways and things that you can put in place to lower stress levels that actually have huge measurable impacts on your physiology and can help you manage those stress levels. Question about that? Nope. Okay, last thing is metabolizing lean muscle mass. So, who has ever thought, okay, it's New Year's, I need to lose weight, I'm gonna just start going to the gym and I'll run every day?
I have thought that.
1, 2, 3, okay, great.
It lasted a day.
It lasted 1 day, great, awesome. So when you do, like, aerobic training is not a bad thing, but when you do it chronically and to excess without proper diet and resistance training, you will start metabolizing your muscle mass weight. The reason for this is, again, we said the body's an adaptive machine, right? It says, okay, every day I'm running and I'm burning calories. I don't want to burn calories because I want to survive. So what is calorie expensive that I can get rid of that I don't need? Oh, well, I'm not doing weight training, so I don't need much muscle mass. I just need whatever muscles I need to propel myself on this treadmill or on this run. So let's get rid of all that strength muscle fiber because it's burning up a lot of calories just to sustain it. And then that way I'll be more energy efficient when I run. And the problem with that is 2 things. 1, you're losing muscle mass. So now you're lowering the amount of calories your body can burn every day. So you're setting yourself up for failure later with food. And then 2, the more you run or do whatever aerobic activity consistently, losing muscle mass, you're burning fewer calories. Now you have to do more and more and more of that to get the same result because your body's adapting to that stress and it's burning fewer and fewer calories as a result of that adaptation. So now you have to do more exercise to be able to eat less food, and it just keeps separating those 2 things until you finally give up, and then you overeat, and then now that you don't have muscle mass to burn that food up, you store it as fat, and then you go through that same cycle again the next year, this is the plight of the New Year's resolutioner.
So you're saying the body will go for muscle first before
Not
fat?
first, but what it will do is it will recognize what's going on. So it says, okay, what's happening here? Okay, I'm propelling my body at a very fast rate constantly. My body weighs a lot, so just to move my body is very expensive in terms of calories. How can I reduce how many calories I'm burning so that when I'm doing this activity, it's now comfortable? Because remember, your body doesn't want to be under stress, it wants to be comfortable. So as a result of that, it looks for something that it can do to make that more comfortable. So you will start to lose weight.
It's looking for a less expensive way to expend.
Exactly. So muscle burns substantially more calories than body fat tissue does. So your body says, okay, I'm not doing any weight training, but I'm only doing aerobic training. So if I burn up that muscle that I don't need because I'm not doing weight training, I won't burn as many calories, thus my body will survive, and this will become a comfortable stress.
So you have to combine both.
Exactly. You have to do both. Because aerobic training is not bad. It's just to excess and by itself, it is unhealthy, metabolically speaking. Like, I mean, there are some cases of like marathon runners who are exceptionally great athletes, who will have a heart attack when they're running a marathon or something like that.
Yeah.
And it's because they're placing too much stress and too much excessive aerobic training into their regimen. It's not necessarily correlative to the weight training, but it's just you can see that there are negative things when you do anything to excess. So you want to have, yes, some aerobic training, and you definitely need to have a foundation of resistance training if you want to keep your metabolism up and have more freedom with food and be able to burn more calories easier. Okay?
So it just starts to separate, like, if the more you do it, it just separates, like, you have to do it longer. I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah.
You have to do it longer and...
So, like, here's an example, right? Because I'm a visual person too. So let's say we have a pound of muscle, okay? Actually, I'm trying to think of my conversions properly. Yeah, so like a pound of muscle, okay, 1 pound. We'll burn anywhere from about 20 to 50 calories per day, per pound of actual muscle tissue, okay? So let's say I do cardio only, and I'm eating in a deficit, so I'm burning more than I consume. And let's say that I'm not doing any weight training, and I'm not eating a lot of protein, because I don't like protein, and I like carbs. I just want to eat carbs, and I want to burn it off on the treadmill so that I can justify my eating of my favorite carb foods, okay? So I'm not eating the things I need to build muscle. I'm not giving it the stimulus I need to build muscle or maintain it. So what happens is I do this long extended aerobic training, and my body says, okay, you've got an extra pound of muscle that you're not using, and you're not giving the building blocks to nurture. So it breaks it down, okay? You lose a pound. Great. You're down a pound on the scale. Your aerobic conditioning is getting better. The problem is now you're burning 20 to 50 calories less per day. And you can lose that as easily as in about 4 to 7 days if you're not eating protein or enough protein, you're not doing weight training, and you're only doing aerobic exercise to excess. So you can see how you do that for 8 weeks, right? Someone do math for me because I hate math. What's 8 times 20 or 8 times 50? 160, okay? So now, after 4 weeks, now you can't eat 160 calories. You have to eat 160 calories less per day because you've lost 4 pounds of muscle mass, right? Now again, this is a little bit of a radical analogy, but this is what a lot of people are about to do in about 2 months. They're going to sign up for a gym membership, they're going to jump on a treadmill 30 to 60 minutes a day, 6 days a week, for about 6 weeks, and then give up when they lose weight, but then it stops, and then they're going to be down 4, 5, 6 pounds in muscle mass.
This seems like it's the bottom line of yo-yo.
Exactly, right? So that's what happens, right? So now their metabolic rate, let's say the average male is somewhere between 1,600 to 1,900 calories per day, okay? That's what he will burn sedentary. Doesn't even have to exercise. But if you're doing this type of thing that we talked about, right? Where you're excess training aerobic, not training resistance enough, and not keeping enough protein in your system to sustain your muscle mass, well now he just lost 10% of his burning potential. Okay, and if he keeps doing that longer, he's going to lose more. But let's say he does it for 6 weeks, gives up, and then 2020 New Year's resolution comes around, and he's like, okay, I screwed up this year, I gained 10 extra pounds of body fat, but now he has 10 extra pounds of body fat, 10% less burning potential in his metabolism, and he does the same thing again.
Yeah.
So now he loses another 10% the next year, right? And then he falls off the wagon 6 weeks later, and then he starts storing more fat. So you can see he's reducing his metabolism over time and increasing his fat storage. So this is how people, they struggle, they yo-yo, they do what they think they should be doing, and it's awesome that they've got that effort, they're trying, they're doing something, but they don't realize they're destroying their metabolism over time with excessive aerobic training. And the reason people go to aerobic training is because it burns more calories in the workout, yes. But that doesn't mean it's burning more fat, and that doesn't mean it's necessarily healthy, and that doesn't mean that it's not metabolizing calories from your muscle mass. So people say, well, it's easier, I can learn to just run on a treadmill, and I can do that, and it burns more, so I get more bang for my buck. But if you don't take the time to learn the resistance training, and you don't take the time to save your muscle mass, you get a slower metabolism, you get more fat, and then you get more stress, and you just compound that over the years, right? And people have done this for 1 year, 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. And I've worked with people who've been doing that process for 20 years, and I tell them straight up, I'm like, you You need to work it for like 18 months. And you're not going to see weight loss, you're probably going to see weight gain the first 3 to 6 months while we build your muscle back up. Because it's like you're trying to burn through race fuel with a moped rather than getting like a V8 Mustang. Now you don't have to look like a V8 Mustang, but who wouldn't like to, right? But if you have a V8 and you don't want to be energy efficient, you want to be energy costly. You want to burn fuel like crazy. The only way to do that is to increase your basal metabolic rate. So how do we do that? We increase muscle mass. And 5 pounds of muscle is not much. It's like this much, right? You look at like that much muscle distributed all over your body, you're going to look more toned, you're going to look tighter, you're going to have definition, and your inches are going to be smaller because it's more dense than body fat. So you're going to lose inches, look better, and be able to burn another, what? So, 160 to a few hundred more calories per day. Right? So that's why weight training is so important. And when you lose muscle mass, you can lose weight on the scale, but you're slowing your metabolism down and you're setting yourself up for failure in the long term.
So I have a quick question.
Yeah.
And I assume this is right, but
And these are rough numbers, by the way, but they're somewhat close.
so where you talk about that, like when you do cardio, yes, you may burn more calories during that 30 to 60 minutes, but that means that after the fact, you're not burning as much in your resting state because you don't have as much muscle, right?
Yeah, exactly. So that's a good concept. So that's called EPOC, which stands for exercise post-oxygen consumption. Don't have to memorize it, but it basically means you're putting yourself in a deficit from your aerobic training, from your training, that will cause you to have to continue to burn, or the afterburn effect, longer, even if you're in a rest state.
And you get more of EPOC when you do resistance weight training versus just straight cardio. So that, okay.
When you do straight cardio, you might burn, depending on the body, you could burn anywhere, like let's say an hour of cardio, right? You could burn 400 to maybe 1,200 calories from aerobic training for an hour. Big body type, small body type, okay? And that's rough, again. But a weight training session, you might burn 200 to maybe 600 if you're like really muscular, okay? Now, so when you look at those numbers, you're like, well, yeah, shit, I'm gonna do all the cardio I can.
Right.
But then you go through that process we just talked about, right? So yes, you burn fewer in the workout, but because you're stimulating muscle growth and the muscle's been broken down, your body now has to burn food to fix that, right? So you're increasing muscle mass you're increasing the potential for muscle mass, so you're really breaking it in the workout. But the thing is, your metabolic rate is elevated anywhere from like 2 hours to maybe 24 hours, where you're in this deficit, where your body's now going to go through a process of burning up food to fix what you've broken. These 200 to 600 calories burn. When you combine, what EPOC specifically is when you combine weights and aerobic training, or cardio. Weights, W plus C is weights and cardio. What did you say about that? Oh, with HIIT, right? So with high intensity interval training. This is aerobic training, but it's burst, recover, and you can't really sustain that very long. In fact, you're not doing HIIT properly if you can do it for longer than 20 minutes.
I was gonna say 8 minutes here is about enough.
Yeah, like we do like 8 to 16 minutes of cardio, maybe, and it's usually circuit or interval based, okay? So when you do this, sure, you burn fewer calories in the workout, but because this puts you in a deeper oxygen deficit, your resting heart rate is going to be elevated for at least 2 hours after your workout, usually 2 to 4. So you're gonna burn, next time you come to class, right? Really push yourself in that last portion where you're doing the weight-based interval training or weight-based circuits. And then for the next hour or two, if you have a heart rate monitor, check your resting heart rate. You're probably gonna be somewhere between 80 and 100 beats per minute, when your normal resting heart rate is probably like 50 to 72 or 80, right? And so what's going on there is it's that EPOC, it's the deficit you've put yourself in from the metabolic stimulation, from the HIIT training and the weight-based aerobic training that is putting you in that deficit. So now you're having to burn extra to make up for it. You don't get that with endurance cardio. If if you do this option here, where you just do endurance cardio for like 60 minutes, you just run on the treadmill or the elliptical, whatever, kind of low intensity. Even if it's a somewhat higher intensity, but if you go for 60 minutes, it can't be this intense. You're gonna recover within a few minutes of getting off the treadmill, and when your heart rate goes back down to resting, you're done. That's it.
So you don't get any of the epoch after? I mean,
Nope.
very little.
Very little, yeah.
I guess that makes sense too, because then you just want to, and I think a lot of people, including myself, where you do cardio for an hour and then you're like, okay, well, I burned all these calories, now I can just justify eating.
Yep.
Something. A lot of people are like, well,
Yeah.
I do cardio so I can eat whatever I want.
And you guys got to realize too, just because the treadmill or your watch says you burned this, doesn't mean it burned right now, and doesn't mean it burned from fat. It's a deficit. It's your body put you, like, it's like you put 400 to 1,200 calories on your credit card, right?
Yeah.
You haven't paid it back yet. It's just there, right, as a deficit. So your body's going to then go in and recognize and say, oh, okay, I need to start metabolizing some fat to replace that lost food energy that I burned, okay? Or energy I burned from oxygen. When you're doing aerobic training, you burn some from oxygen as well. So if you do the cardio and then you go eat a cheeseburger, sorry, you're not, like, you didn't burn that many calories to then eat it in, at your next meal.
Yeah.
Because this process to make up for that in fat burning is going to take up to 48 hours. So, because your body, it takes time to metabolize adipose tissue or fat tissue.
You'd have to be really consistent with cardio to be able to eat like that and have it.
Yes,
And-
and you can do
continually
it.
increase it.
There's people that do it, right? But then you have to gradually increase it because you're reducing your muscle mass if you're not weight training. So then you have less likelihood you're going to metabolize the cheeseburger next time. So you have to do more cardio with less muscle to earn the cheeseburger, and then you lose muscle during that cardio, and then you have to do more cardio next week to have the same calorie burn, right? So it's just a vicious cycle.
And the crazy thing is cardio feels like you're burning so much more right at that time
Yeah.
than strength training.
Yeah.
Yep.
Totally. And it's true.
Well,
It's
'cause
like
you
you
are.
are burning less with strength
Yeah.
training.
Yeah.
But you're playing the long game. Don't play the short game, right? Like, yes, you can lose weight quick. I could get you guys to lose 10 pounds this week, easy.
Well,
It wouldn't be fat, though.
With Sergio, we both did it. Like in 4 months, I lost 70 pounds. Sergio lost 80.
Uh-huh.
Doing
Doing that?
Just
walking,
cardio.
running,
Uh-huh.
and just cardio.
Okay.
We get it back.
You gained it back.
All.
All of it.
Well, now we lose it back.
Yeah.
We did it all.
Yeah.
We get it
Yeah.
all back.
We got it back as well.
So you're like living, breathing examples of that
oh,
process.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
I understand.
What does it feel
that.
like?
I am too.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
Recovering from my knee, I did the bike and I only did cardio
Yeah.
and lost all of my strength.
And you have that in your mind. You said, okay, I did cardio, I can make something.
Yes. Now again, cardio isn't bad. It's that using it to excess and neglecting to do a resistance training program is what sets you up for failure. So
Yeah.
you want to do aerobic or cardiovascular conditioning, whether it's endurance or interval training, because it will help with your circulatory system and your heart health, right? And your overall endurance and ability to just have staying power and stamina. But if you do that only, and you neglect the weights, and you neglect the appropriate protein intake, you are setting yourself up for potential reduction in your metabolism and muscle mass, thus not as much food freedom and more likelihood that you'll gain weight later, and it'll be body fat. So, makes sense?
Yeah.
What is the proper protein intake?
So if you're sedentary, you don't need to eat as much protein. But when you're breaking it down with resistance training, you need substantially more than what most people or doctors will recommend. But the research I've looked at, and I've looked at pretty much everything I can find on protein, a lot of it's done on athletes. So you'll hear supplement companies talk about you need to have like 2 to 4 grams of protein per pound, otherwise you're going to lose all your muscle mass. But the thing is, that's done on athletes who train like 4 hours a day and they're in college and they're like 20 years old and they're genetically awesome, right? So, okay, yeah. When you look at
You're talking
everyday...
about us, right?
What?
You're
Yeah.
talking about us.
Yeah. So when you're talking about everyday people just trying to be fit and healthy, they work out like 30 minutes 3 times a week, or maybe up to 60 minutes 6 times a week, which is a lot, right? And then they work a sedentary job where they don't quite hit 10,000 steps a day or something like that. And they don't have the muscle mass that a college athlete has. You're talking about needing a minimum of about 0.8 grams per pound to 1.5 grams per pound that they weigh in protein per day. So for example, if I'm 180 pounds, right, I would need to have, we'll just make it easy, 1 gram per pound, right? So I need to have 180 grams per day if I'm weight training on a pretty consistent basis to sustain my current muscle mass. Possibly gain a little bit, but it depends on the person. So you might need to go about 1.5, depending on the person. But I would say that's even a little bit much for some people. I've done experiments with intermittent fasting and low carb and keto, looking at how low can my protein be where I don't lose muscle mass and I only reduce body fat. And I'll tell you, I've lost about, what was it, 14, I don't remember the poundage, but it was 4% body fat in 8 weeks, okay, doing keto, okay? And I only had 0.8 grams per pound that I weighed. So I don't know where my phone is. Can someone do that math for me?
You're recording.
Oh, my phone is
Here,
recording.
and I've got my phone out too.
0.8 times, at the time it was 175. So I had 140 grams of protein per day. For some people that's still a lot, but I'm a 180 pound person. So for someone who's like 130 or something like that, you're gonna maybe 80 to 100 grams. You can actually sustain muscle mass with far less protein than most marketing will tell you if you're doing resistance training and eating protein appropriately. So you don't have to eat a ton, but you do need to eat at least this to sustain it. And if you want to build muscle or you want to get tone, right, that's muscle, you need to go more like 1 gram to 1.5 grams per pound. But you don't have to go like 2, 3, 4 grams per pound, having shakes every 3 hours kind of a thing. So, does that make sense?
That's a lot of protein.
It is a lot, yeah.
Drinking
But you're weight training. Like you're breaking protein 3 times a week or more, right? So not only do you have to give it back what it needs to sustain it so it doesn't stay broken and lose weight from muscle, but if you do want to increase your metabolism, your fat burning potential, and your muscle mass to look a little more muscular or toned, then you need to increase the amount.
That's like 6 meals a day.
But you
No.
can drink it, right?
Like, so what do you weigh, Sergio?
200.
200, okay. So, Sergio wants to lose body fat, right? Yeah, okay, so you weigh 200 pounds. So what's 200 times 0.8, Lindsay? 180. 180? Good, good math, I suck at math. Okay,
30 grams per milk.
right, so 180, okay? So it is a lot of protein, but let's add this up. You could do...
Isn't it 160? It's 160.
It's 160?
Yeah. So even less.
Oh, you're
You
right.
can't rely on your
No,
math
not me,
skills.
man, not me.
I just kind
Okay,
of
so it's 160, all right? So let's break this up into 25 gram increments. So can you do 160 divided by 25?
Yes. 160 divided by 25?
Yeah.
6.4.
Yeah. 6.
Oh, okay, 6.4 servings,
Six
okay.
meals.
6.4. So all we gotta find is 6.4 25 gram servings of protein. So that's, let's do it. Greek yogurt,
30.
okay.
Yeah, protein.
Whey protein, okay. I'd say you can have like 2 scoops of that. A chicken breast, an 8-ounce chicken breast is gonna have around 40 to 50 grams. So,
So I think
8
about
ounces of chicken.
with Sergio in particular, he can't eat 8 ounces of meat at one time.
Oh, you're right.
He's had
So 4 ounces, okay?
surgery about 2
But we
at a
can
time.
drink it.
Yeah. So the whey protein,
What about eggs?
2 servings of that.
Eggs is easier.
That would be 4 eggs for that gram amount. Okay. And then, so what are we at here? Chicken.
So you chose a difficult person to do this part with, but
Well,
just
Sergio,
in that he can only get a little
Just-
bit at a time, but he could do more snacks.
That's,
Yeah,
yeah, that's
right?
fine.
So yeah,
I did forget about that situation
if
with
you
you,
do
but
2
like,
ounces of meat,
someone
and
who
you
doesn't
shake
have
with
that
it,
restriction,
easy to do, right?
That's why I calculate with milk.
yeah, exactly, right? That's 30 grams.
Yeah.
Right? But so someone who doesn't have the restriction where they need to eat small meals frequently, you could combine these, right? So you could do like
I mean, this is a
these,
different case.
a cup of Greek yogurt, a scoop of whey protein. It's like chocolate pudding for breakfast, okay? Then you have 2 hard-boiled or 4 hard-boiled eggs as a snack or something. You can have 4 ounces of chicken, or I like to have I like to go around 8 ounces. So you can do a full chicken breast, or another, I don't know why I'm writing, you guys probably can't read this. It's chicken, get it, chicken scratch. Right? So, but a lean protein, a lean animal protein, about 4 ounces. So we got 25, 50, 75, 100, 125, 150. We're almost there in 6 servings of protein. So, but you can combine these. For me, that'd be 1 meal. For me, that'd be a snack. For me, that'd be one snack. For someone who's lighter or female, or not 200 pounds, but like more like 130 to 150, clearly you don't have to eat that much. Your grams would be much less. But yeah, I mean, if you're looking at like
0.8 would be a good math.
0.8, yeah, 0.8. If you are looking to increase substantially in muscle mass, I would go 1.5. And that's pretty aggressive, right? You do definitely need to have to like use a lot of whey protein. But that's if you're going for, I'm increasing large amounts of muscle mass. But to sustain muscle, yeah, you could probably get away with less than 0.8, to be honest. But that's typically what we see in regularly weight training individuals. If you're sedentary, you could do 0.8 per kilo, which would be less than half of this number. But then you're eating a lot more carbs and fats. It's possible that you're going to be putting on body fat, even though you're sustaining your muscle mass.
Yeah, that's what you told me to weight, right?
Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Do you
So
adjust that if you're losing weight? So does your so if you're going with 0.8 and you're 180 and
Yep.
you start to lose weight, do you adjust the protein to continue to go down as you lose weight?
It
You
depends.
adjust
If you're
your
reducing,
total calories.
yeah, you're just your
As
total
you're
calories, but
adding
you would probably keep your protein ratio would start going up if you're reducing weight only from body fat, right? Because you want to, like we said, we want to sustain the muscle mass, right? If as we're losing weight, we lower our protein, some of that weight loss possibly could be muscle mass.
But I also, I met with Wendell today and did his numbers, and he weighs way less.
Yeah.
But he burns a ton more. We had to increase his
Increase
food
it.
so
Got
much.
it.
Yeah. So
Got it.
keep in mind that the more you're working out and the lower your body fat is, the more calories you're going to burn.
Yeah,
So I weigh 115, but I still need to eat 2,000 just to maintain.
Yes.
So.
Because see, that's the
Because
thing.
your
Bench press.
muscle is burning so
But
much
that's
more
it.
calories.
Exactly.
More calories.
She is 110, 115
Well,
pounds, right?
fine, one
But she has a very high ratio of muscle mass, so she gets to eat 2,000 calories a day and break even.
Get to.
But she's trained super hard over the 10 to
10 or
15
11,
years.
yeah.
She's trained that long to build her metabolism to that, so she
can
gets
eat the
to.
cheeseburger and be fine.
Yeah, but you gotta put in that work to build the metabolic rate, right? That's why athletes or fitness people who've been at it for a while, yeah, they go and they'll eat burgers and fries and then they still have a six pack, but unless they're on drugs, right, then they've built that in the past, and so their metabolism can break that stuff down because they've got so much muscle mass to burn it. Or they're just really active. Like Wendell just started with this about 5 months ago, but he's so active now, and he is increasing his muscle mass substantially that she just awarded him a ton of calories because he's building metabolism. So we won't continue to reduce your calories as you continue with us. In fact, they will probably go up because you're increasing metabolism. And that's because the way that we train is for increasing lean mass while reducing body fat. Not just, okay, we're gonna calorie restrict and we're gonna have you run a ton and to burn a ton and eat a little and destroy your metabolism. So we don't do that. So, any other questions? Cool. So last thing on there for you guys is, I'll save a couple minutes here if anyone does have more questions, but I just wrote down, I was just thinking, in my head, my opinion, what are the 14, what are the best ways to lose weight in a healthy way? And just was writing a list, ended up being 14 things, the number's insignificant, and they're in no particular order, but if you adopt those habits right there on a consistent basis long term, I mean, you're gonna cover a lot of these things. You're gonna balance out your hydration, you're gonna promote and sustain lean muscle mass, you're going to be eating whole, healthy foods for the most part, reducing inflammation and excess sodium intake, and
talk about number 11?
Yeah, sure. Oh, number 11 on here. Yes.
And get 8 hours.
I mean,
sleep
if I
and
go to
be
bed
here
at
5
9
minutes.
o'clock, it's like 4 o'clock. That means I'm barely getting lunch in.
Yeah.
That's no snack. That's no dinner. I mean, how?
Okay.
How?
Well, so it's relative, right? So that is a general piece of advice that I gave. And the reason for that is because a lot of people are like, okay, I'm gonna lose weight, I'm gonna start this diet, so I'm gonna skip breakfast. I'm not gonna eat. And then I'm gonna have just almonds and, you know, some carrot sticks for lunch. And then I'm gonna have a whey protein shake after my workout. And they've had like 400 calories. So then they just binge eat all night and then they go to sleep. Right? So no, you don't have to, it's not like if you eat within 4 hours of going to bed, you're going to store fat. It's not saying that. It's just, I'm trying to get people to eat earlier in the day and set themselves up for success before they ruin it and they're mentally broken down from the day, it's been stressful, they're underfed, so now they're irritable and their body is sending hormone signals, eat as much sugar as possible.
Right.
And so then you don't have any willpower at night. So if you stack your food a little bit earlier when you're more mentally tough in the day and you're more cognizant of what you're eating, then typically you'll be done by about dinner time and you won't actually need to eat anything later.
If we're eating at 4 and then again at 7 and then again at 10 and then noon and then 2:30, that dinner at 6 and then bed at 9 is okay.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah.
Yeah.
Like if you're eating well enough earlier in the day,
Right.
it's that.
Not gorging yourself at night right
Yeah.
before you go to
I was
bed.
gonna
That's
say,
the
because
key.
I even have a hard time if I
Yeah.
stack in the morning because I'll get like right before bed, I'm starting to get a little bit hungry, and so I'm not gonna have a full meal, but I may have like I don't know if it's bad, but sometimes I'll have a protein drink like that.
Yep.
Just because I'm like I need something in my stomach, but
Yes.
I also don't want to like eat, order
Yeah.
pizza
So
or
yeah.
go to Sev or
Not eating 4 to 5 hours before you go to sleep is not indicative of you're going to store fat. It's just, it helps people kind of shift their food typically.
So it's about not eating throughout the day and then just binging at night.
Correct.
Like
When
being
you
more
say-
aware of
When you say
consistency.
eating, you mean a meal or weekend snack? Because like she said, we
Snack
sometimes
window.
get one of
Yeah.
this or
Like-
just a little almonds.
Yeah, basically don't undereat or starve yourself throughout the day and then overconsume at night.
Oh, okay, that
Okay,
makes
okay.
more
Perfect.
sense. Yeah.
That's basically what it's saying, right? There are times when eating at night would be okay. And that would be like, are you gonna do a 6 a.m. workout?
Right.
Okay, yeah, like having more carbs at dinner is probably all right. But don't eat it like, don't eat an 800, or like, not 800, like, that'd be like my size meal. Don't eat a 400, 500 calorie meal and then just like tank out and go to sleep, right? Like give it time to digest. It takes like at least 3 or 4 hours for that to start leaving your stomach. Let it get broken down. But when you go to sleep, your metabolic rate drops. So the likelihood that you're going to metabolize that food as effectively may not happen.
Okay.
But the nice thing to eat, whenever someone's like, what should I eat at night when I get hungry? I always go healthy fat and protein, because those are 2 nutrients that your body does need for brain and body and muscle recovery overnight. So I'll go with eggs because it's protein and healthy fat, and the healthy cholesterol in those eggs will actually help regenerate hormone production overnight. You'll get a more restful sleep. You'll wake up stronger the next day. So I'll go with something eggs or a protein shake is fine, or some nuts. Yeah, some walnuts.
Is it okay to go to bed a little bit hungry? Is that okay?
I wake up in
It's
the
fine to be hungry, you guys. Like
Yeah.
here's the thing. Why is it bad to be hungry?
I don't know.
I don't
It's just
know.
uncomfortable, right?
Yeah.
It's just uncomfortable.
Right.
Like, but we've gotten into this like habit in society where like, oh my God, I'm hungry. Like, I need to eat right now. Like, it's okay to fast.
Just when
It's
it
not
goes
a
to
big
that
deal.
too much time.
Yes, it's just
Oh my God.
it's that it will break down your blood glucose, and thus you'll make poorer decisions if you
Yes.
go too long being hungry.
Yeah.
But I'll do intermittent fasting sometimes, which I don't recommend when you guys are first starting out because it takes a lot of proper timing of your food and getting enough, and it takes a lot of willpower when you're fasting. But I've done 24-hour fasts and I've done 16-hour fasts where I'll eat like in an 8-hour window only. But I eat a day's worth of food in 8 hours. I don't eat like one snack and a dinner. But so when you're fasting, it can be quite effective and safe, and as long as you're eating in that enough in that normal feeding window, you're actually still going to sustain muscle mass. But the problem is, do you have the willpower to make healthy decisions in a fasting state. But being hungry is not a bad thing. Our bodies,
So you eat a 450 calorie dinner around 6, and when you go to bed at 9, you've got that little bit of hunger pain, tiny bit of hunger there. That's totally
have one of those protein shakes,
Yeah.
or have a couple hard-boiled eggs,
Yeah.
or just don't go towards sugar and really carb-dense foods, because metabolizing that will be like those foods are just a little bit more likely to be stored as fat. I'm not trying to demonize carbs, but it's just an easy fuel source. Your body just loves them.
Or do what I tell Monica every time she says I'm hungry. And what's that? That's not hunger. That's thirsty. Get up.
Yeah, right? Like a lot of people mistake hunger or thirst for hunger.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah, chug that water, and in 20 minutes, if you're still hungry, then yeah, have a snack. Cool.
Perfect.
Awesome. Anything else I can help out with you guys?
Learned a lot in the last
Yeah,
hour.
interesting.
Awesome. I'm glad.
Thanks, KK.
You're welcome.